Hey guys, welcome. Mitch and Sam here from
Hey.
FastWayToHealth. Super excited for this transformation fasting masterclass. We're going to get started in just a second. Just give a few latecomers the chance to come in. While we are waiting, just make sure that you can hear us. Can you just pop your name and where you're from down in the box down below? There's a chat box there for you where we can interact throughout this masterclass as well, and we'll get started in just a second. So let me just bring up what I need to bring up for you.
We've got a few guys on here already. Thanks so much for joining us. Elizabetha, Milena, Mickey, Diana. Great to see you guys here.
All right. So today will be a combination of a slideshow. It will also be us on camera as well. We like to be on camera a little bit here and there. So just let me know if you can actually see the slideshow. It should be your full screen coming up right now, and hopefully it's going to work. Oh, it might not be.
Can everyone see the screen? Just pop it in the chat box if you can.
It's not looking good on our end, Sam. Let me just stop the screen share for a second. While that's coming on, Sam, you take it away. So we've been in, over the last 2 months, for those of you who don't know, over the last 2 to 3 months, we've been in Bali,
Okay.
We've been in Peru, and we've also taken a lot of time to ourselves to really dig deeper into our own personal transformation, and as well as, you know, how can we help our community? And we've had a ton of insights, and that's come through fasting, doing Juicing the Rainbow Bridge. It's come from spending time off the grid with no emails, no internet, no electricity for a week. And it's come through interacting with people like traditional Balinese healers and traditional people from Peru and all of these other, you know, cultures out there that have much longer lived than our culture. So Sam, take it away, and I'm just going to get this slideshow sorted.
Yeah, cool. So as in our experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on recently as well, the power in being able to unplug from your current world and give yourself the time and space to be able to do that, because it's incredible what can kind of come through when you aren't scrolling social media and you aren't having distractions, and you can really focus on yourself. And, you know, sometimes people call it selfish, but I think it's a way of life that needs to be more integrated in everybody's life, because having some space and having some stillness to be able to, you know, remember parts of yourself or discover parts of yourself can be a real journey. So I think we've had some incredible journeys recently, but more so in the last couple of weeks, where we unplugged and gave ourselves that space and that stillness to be able to connect. And there's a great quote that says, disconnect from the world to reconnect with yourself. And we truly believe that, because it's exactly what happens. And I don't know if anyone's had or been able to do the same thing at some point in their life, but it's so important. It's really similar to adding in a meditation practice or a mindfulness practice every day. You feel amazing for it, right? Like you're more centered, you're more grounded, and being able to do that, you get some incredible insights come through. And so that's why we're here today, because we want to share, like, so much has come up. And like Mitch has mentioned in the email, if you read the email, is that we didn't speak much, we didn't connect much, but when we did, we had discovered things are on the same wavelength. So that's when we knew we were really connecting into something other than ourselves, or a higher self, or a source, or whatever you want to call it. And that's why we're here, because we want to share with you our learnings of what we decided that we needed to follow, what path it is that we need to go down now, and ultimately what is the best form of transformation when it comes to yourself and your health. And so that's what we want to bring for you today. How did we go with the screens? How's
Awesome.
Everyone?
Yeah.
A few more people joining us. Cool. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Sarah. Lots of people on, and Cheryl says the screen is on, so cool.
Awesome. The screen is working perfectly. It's just a slideshow that's causing some issues. After taking a few weeks off, I've forgotten how to do things, but that's all right. We'll get there in a minute. One thing I did want to say up front right now is just to give you a bit of an idea. If you tuned into recent presentations I did, like 6 months ago, I do get a little bit carried away sometimes and talk forever. I do want to keep this to roughly between 60 to 90 minutes, and we'll definitely do our best to do that. So just so you're aware of how long this may go for. Secondly, the reason for the chat box is so that you can interact with us, ask questions along the way, tell us about some of your experiences. And we'll also, if we have time, I'll drop in the link at the very end. So make sure you stick through at the very end, where you can come up onto the screen and join us live on video or on audio if you like. And we can go through some scenarios in your own life. So that is time dependent. If we do have enough time at the end, then I'll do that. So make sure you just stick around to the end. We really want to make this as interactive as possible so you guys get as much from it as possible as well.
Can you guys hear us? Because there might not be any sound coming from a few comments. Can you guys hear us? No, otherwise I could sing and no one will be able to hear me. Anyone? Give us a clue if you guys can hear. Yes.
Yes.
Yay. All right. Thank you. I won't sing. It's fun. Okay, cool.
All right. Why is this ready to advance indicator? Next slide. Okay.
Technology, hey?
All right. We're just going to have to do it this way. So here, let me bring this up. All right. So should now see on your screen in a few seconds, transformation fasting, the new paradigm fasting. Let me know if you can see that, and that will be super appreciative, and we'll get started straight away. So you're just going to see, let me try and move this across, and that should be a little bit better.
Cool.
All right.
You should be able to see that now. Yay.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right.
Let's go.
Cool. So one thing that I really loved the first time I heard it was how to create long-lasting sustainable change. Now, we all know that fasting itself can heal the body physically, and most people who get into fasting initially actually get into fasting to heal the body, whether it's fatigue, whether it's diabetes, whether it's anything that you can think of really, and even the more serious diseases like cancer and tumors. With the right fasting protocols, we can definitely do that. Now that's happening on the physical body. What a lot of people don't understand, and it was myself and even Sam included when we first got started, is that the physical body is probably the physical benefits is probably the smallest benefits that you can get from fasting. Fasting can provide so much more if you do take the time to focus on the mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that's what today is really about. Today is really about focusing on our mental, emotional, and spiritual energy bodies so that we can create long-lasting, sustainable change. Because when you tap into all of these layers together in a synchronistic effect, then that's when long-term change actually happens. Because there's so many people that will get in and do a cleanse or a detox or a juice fast, and they talk about how it was the worst thing for them ever because they went back to even worse than how they were before they got started. Now, it's because they were focusing on the physical. It's really, once you open your eyes and really dig into these stories, it's exactly what they want. Most of them want weight loss or to heal the body of something, but they don't focus on the important things like meditation, self-inquiry, self-love, and a few of these other things that we're going to be talking about today. However, there was more to this, and I think that that when you truly understand this next picture, it makes a lot more sense. And for some of you, spiritual might not be the word to use. You can just call it love, if that's a better word for you. But the shamans of South America, they believe that any disease in the body is a spiritual problem, and that if you actually work on the spiritual first, then the rest of it becomes really easy and it becomes organic when healing the body. So I believe that the spiritual is more of the center energy body, and that everything else around it, the mental, emotional, and the physical, is more of a secondary body, energy body, when we're on a healing path. Now, I understand there's more energy bodies out there as well, but just for today, we're just going to be talking about these 4. So what is transformation fasting? Let me bring us back. Sam, when we sat down and talked about this, Sam came up with some really great ways of talking about this. So take it away, Sam.
Yeah. So what is transformational fasting? So I'm going to break it down into 2 parts, because I believe that the first part is to discover your true self. So that's remembering, even for the first time, what you believe, your passions, what makes you come alive, what gets you up in the morning, who you truly are. And then the second part is to redefine your own health. And because I believe you don't know how good you can feel until you can feel it. And so that's just not that, definitely fasting comes on a physical level. But when you go deeper into what Mitch just mentioned, then you're like pushing the veils of your own health, and it organically redefines, because you don't really know what's possible. And I believe, right, like today, I'm the best in my health than I'll ever be, because tomorrow's a new day. And the more that I'm on this journey, the more that I grow, the more that I explore, then I'm able to redefine my sense of health and tomorrow be a better version. And so how do we do this? We fast.
All right. That's my cue. One sec.
And by fast, we mean fall in love with yourself. And that means loving all parts of yourself. So recognizing if you're choosing love or you're choosing to live in fear. And remembering that love is the most important journey. And it's not necessarily the easiest, which we're going to get to later, but it's the most important. And so when we allow vulnerability, that's how we get to that part. So the next part is allowing vulnerability. And that means to really allow yourself to feel people, allow yourself to feel and express freely. Fasting, when we fast, we're stripping back layers and layers. That's uncovering parts of ourselves. But to feel, I think it's been defined in this lifetime as being weak, right? But being vulnerable is actually a form of strength. It's empowering. And so to be able to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we need to surrender. Surrendering to the ego, that little voice inside of our head that we all love, right? That's, you can't do this. You're not good enough to do that. Oh, but you look fat. Oh, who do you think you are? That voice, yeah, that one. We need to surrender to that, to the negative beliefs, to the logical mind, to the judgments of other people as well, and just surrender to all control. And so to be able to surrender, we need to trust. And that's trusting the connection and the intuitive self, and trusting the heart. Because it's funny, we were born into this lifetime in that space. And as we've gotten older, and as we put ourselves out there, and as we listen to people, and we're bombarded by all of this stuff, we lose sight of that. And it becomes really quiet. It's almost like this whisper. But there's actually something that's bigger than us that's guiding us all the time. But it's just this whisper that we don't know how to listen to. So by trusting, by surrendering, allowing the vulnerability, and ultimately falling in love with yourself, it leads you to 3 core pillars that's going to absolutely transform your world. And we're going to get to that
in just a second. But before that, a story, and I'm going to come back on screen in just a second, but I also want you to take this picture in just for a moment so that you can relate to it. And you're probably wondering why Oprah's there, and I'm definitely going to talk about that. And another thing is, we're going to go through 3 core pillars to what we believe makes up transformation fasting. At the end of that, we will have an offer for a few people that want to take it up. So stick around for that if you are interested. And then at the final part of today, that's when we'll do some coaching and take a lot of questions, because a lot of questions will come up. A lot of this stuff of what you're about to learn may not seem logical. It may not be something that you've thought about before, and it may not make complete sense. So there may be questions. However, I encourage you to just sit and trust and sit here with an open mind and an open heart, and whatever resonates with you, take that with you today and use it in your life. If it doesn't resonate, then you don't need to, because not everything's going to resonate straight away for you, and it's just really going to depend upon where you are in your life and what you're willing to take on just right now. So Oprah. So let me just stop sharing. So let me talk about Oprah. So you saw the picture there where it had Oprah at the top, and it had the picture of a mind, and it had the picture of a heart. Well, I've heard a really good story about Oprah the other day, and basically it was from back when she got started, very, very, very start of her TV career, essentially. And so it was many, many years ago, many decades ago. So she was in Baltimore. She got this job as a news anchor, and she'd go out and cover different stories each day. So when she got this job, I believe she was 22 years old, and she got this really prestigious, good job. So that was good for the mind, right? Her dad really loved it, and he was really, really proud about it. Good for the mind. She had a lot of people who looked up to her, and she got to be on TV. So it's good for the ego, right? It was well paid. Like I mentioned, I think she was making $22,000 per year as a 22-year-old, which was a lot of money for a 22-year-old back then. So it was good for that reason as well. All of her friends loved her for it because she was like a bit of a celebrity in town. So that was good for the mind. However, she said it didn't feel right. She would go out and she would cover a story like a fire, for example, and she'd cover that story and see out the rest of the day. When she finished work, she'd actually go and buy some blankets and take it back to the victims of the fire, because she couldn't detach from the humanity of the stories that she was covering. So it just didn't feel right for her. And because it didn't feel right, after 6 months, she got fired, essentially, because even though she was okay at doing her job, she just wasn't the right fit for them. So instead of the company or the television network that she worked for, instead of them sending her out after 6 months and paying her $11,000 to see out the rest of her contract and not do anything, instead of sending her away, they decided to use up her rest of her 6 months and put her on just this talk show that they had on the side, where they could get as much value from her as possible while they're still paying for her. And she said the second, I was going to say the minute, but I think it was the second she sat down on this talk show on the couch, she felt like she was at home. It actually felt right for her. And she said, and like the first story, it was about an ice cream shop. So she wasn't like interviewing the top people in the world like she was right now. It was nothing profound like that. It was just something that as soon as she sat down on that couch, it just felt right. It felt right here in the heart. And she said, if there's anything that she owes to her success, it is that she navigates her life and her career by what feels right. And then what's even tougher is when what feels right is in conflict with what's happening in the mind, what your mum says is right, what your dad says is right, what your sister, your brother, what your doctor says is right, what these scientific studies are saying is right. When the mind of all of those things and the heart is in conflict, it takes a very brave and courageous person to follow the heart. And that's really what today is about, is following the heart, because there's so much in the health and nutrition world, so much that conflicts all the time. And you start doing something and it doesn't feel right, but you've got thousands of people or top gurus telling you that this is the way you have to do it, but it doesn't feel right for you, so you don't get results from it anyway. So it takes so if you don't take anything else away from today except for this, is follow your heart, even when it doesn't feel right, because that's when the magic happens, I promise you. And today's entire presentation is about following the heart. When everything else is in conflict, you follow the heart, and that's where the magic happens. So guys, are you excited? Did you like that story? When I heard that story, I absolutely loved it. And I wanted to do my best to share that with you as well today. So Are you ready to continue? Give me a few yeses and tell me if you're excited.
Mickey loves this. Trust and surrender. Yes. Here. Hey, Paul. Thanks for joining us. Any more comments? Anyone? Hopefully it's all working and people can hear us and stuff now, but pop in a like or a love heart or something.
Amazing. There is a tiny bit delay with Google.
Yay!
You guys probably know. So
yes,
yeah.
Susan.
If we're just hanging around for a second, it's because we're waiting for your chat.
Wonderful. Awesome. Cool.
But before we do jump into the 3 core pillars, like I was saying, we spent a lot of time overseas in Bali, Peru, and just doing a lot of self-inquiry, doing a lot of meditation, not really talking to each other, but connecting energetically. And we've had a lot of cool experiences happening. So, Sam, well, actually, before I do that, the reason, I don't know if you can pick it up, but Sam and I are a little bit congested, and I want to give you a little bit of a warning before we actually move on. Before Peru, and also right now when we got back, we've been experimenting with some superfoods or super herbs like medicinal mushrooms. So especially the reishi mushroom, which is like one of the most powerful ones that has been studied. So we've been experimenting with that, and it's just causing, I don't know what it's doing. It's just detoxing. It's just detoxing everything through our nose, through our ears, and it's just making us talk a little bit funny today. So if you do hear that, that's the reason why. We're doing our best here, but caution, if you are going to get into the superfoods like medicinal mushrooms, start with a half a teaspoon. I thought, we'll be right. I've been using 1.5 teaspoons, 2 teaspoons, but it's just way too much. So anyway, that was off topic. Let's move on. Our personal experiences. Sam, take it away.
Where do I begin? Wow. So I think, in correlation with following the heart, it's probably a really good place to start because it can be scary, right? I think that fasting for me has been this journey of following my heart, and it was probably the very first time that I was able to connect to that fully. And it's brought up a lot, but something in the last few months for me was creating a yoga practice as well as a meditation practice and being on this journey. And this was leading into Bali and leading into Peru. And it brought up a lot of resistance around certain things that I knew was there subconsciously, right? So I think having that stillness and the mindfulness really allowed me to see that I was in this world of go, 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 of I'm strong, I'm powerful, I've got to get shit done, right? And I was neglecting the part of myself that was nurturing and caring and affectionate and loving. And I think they call it the feminine energy. And so I was really resistant towards that. And yoga brought that out in me a lot. And I continued to hear the word surrender. Like, oh, right. And so going and fasting in Bali was an amazing experience because I was in this group of people that had so many different qualities. And I think that you kind of reflecting that in yourself, right? And even their weaknesses you're reflecting in yourself. And so it brings up more things that you need and highlights more things that you need to work on. And femininity continued to come up and kind of surrender continued to come up. And yeah, I think I began to strip back those layers, as I like to call it. But it wasn't until I spent this time in Peru and I unplugged and I went, right, giddy up, like let's do this. Allow me to go to that place that I'm resisting. And that's exactly what happened. And for the first time, it was almost like this wall or this barrier that I've been putting up to protect myself, which feels like my whole life, started to come down, and I started to feel things that I've never felt before. I started to actually feel from my heart and feel intuitively what it feels like to love myself and what it feels like to receive love. That was a massive thing. I had so much love to give, and I think it's such a beautiful thing, but actually receiving love and taking that in was a whole other thing. And I had these walls of protection up. which, I mean, I guess they can come from childhood. They can come from traumas that are happening throughout your life. They can come from past relationships, all sorts of things. But that was something that's really defined this moment of allowing myself to go towards the resistance, giving myself that space and that time to feel and break through those barriers that were stopping me from receiving love. And the number, I guess it resulted in a thought pattern of, in every moment, we have a choice. And we have a choice to live from a place of love, or we have a choice to live from a place of fear. And it's so simple. Like, and everyone's probably heard it before, right? But for the first time, I actually felt it and I actually embodied it. And I was like, whoa. In every moment, it's such a simple decision, and you either choose love or you choose fear. And it's like that choice can determine whether your life is freaking amazing or whether you continue to run up against hurdle, or challenge, or you just don't get to where you want to be because you're coming from a place of fear. And so that was something that really has been a major part of my growth and my learnings in the last few months and more so weeks. That's really helped me to connect on a deeper level and come from a place of love and choose love. So that was probably my most profound moment.
Yeah, and it's beautifully said. And I don't know about you, and I don't know if we've discussed this or not, but having that choice, love or fear, as soon as you face the fears and you know, the hardest part of it, it doesn't become a choice of love or fear anymore. It's just a choice of love.
Yeah.
And it can be super tough. Like, an experience can be super tough. It can be painful. It can be the worst experience in the world, but it's just, it's love anyway. You love it because you know that there's a reason for actually going through that. Because if I look back at all of the times that I've feared in my life, and all the times that I've been in pain, they're actually been some of the most defining and the best moments of my life, because it set me up for who I am today.
Yeah.
So as you face more and more and more of them and actually feel the pain, it's going to go away at some point. But if you feel it and face it, if you can feel it, you can heal it, right? So as you continue to like face that, it just becomes a choice of love. And
and it's like, I don't think it goes away until you really feel it.
Yeah.
And you might kind of think it's gone away, but it's kind of suppressed, right? Yeah. It's buried deep down, and that's why fasting continues to bring it up. But I think that the saying of what you resist persists. It's so true. It's going to keep showing up in your life. It's going to keep coming back until you actually feel the pain and go into it. And just like, you almost just love it. It's like loving all parts of yourself. What I mentioned before, it's that. It's like you can feel it, and that's just feeling it and changing from this scary, horrible place to just, wow, like, whatever, I'm going to love it. It almost just diffuses the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's so good. And, you know, my experience was similar in many ways. I guess before going to Bali, especially, I always had this, I always thought I knew where I was going. You know, I used to think we had to get somewhere. And it wasn't until, and I like always had to be doing something. It wasn't until I started taking some time out that I realized I was actually suppressing a lot of things. And without going into detail to many of them, I was also being a typical guy, thinking that, you know, I'm a health coach, I've done NLP, I've done all of these modalities, I fast all the time. Whatever I need, I can get it from myself, because I can do a lot of self-inquiry. But over the last few months, especially, I've had a few mentors, and what these mentors have been able to bring out within me has been 100 times more powerful and faster than what I could have done by myself. Because I've been thinking about it a lot. I think having these two energies, this mentor, this person that you're working with, who's guiding you through a fast or guiding you through a transformation workshop or whatever it is, they hold this really cool space where they can reflect stuff back to you energetically really quickly, even if they're not saying anything, so that you can move forward. Because And that was so powerful for me because I haven't done that for a couple of years. All transparency to you guys, I haven't had a coach or anyone like that to do that for me for a couple of years, because I guess from out of ego thinking that I didn't need it. But in the last couple of months, I've had a few, and it's transformed my life on an entire different level, to the point where you get feelings in the body, especially around the heart, you know, connecting and loving yourself more, that it almost feels overwhelming, and it almost feels painful because it's opened up to receiving and giving more than ever before. So that's probably been my biggest self-discovery over the last few months. And it hasn't happened instantly. It's not something that I could have just done overnight. It was like, okay, I've got to build the foundation with doing a physical fast first. And then we came in the month after and we did a real emotional fast through Juicing the Rainbow Bridge, and then just build on top of that with some more transformational stuff as well. And it was this process of just digging a little bit deeper each time, to a point where you actually start to feel things in the body that you've never felt in your entire life, at least that I can't remember that I have. And that was pretty amazing to be able to feel your body and really connect to that heart, going back to that story of feeling again. That's been incredible for me, because now whenever I come up to a situation, like a situation showed up 2 nights ago that was pretty scary for me in a really good way. And it involved, you know, 2 opposite sides of the world and 2 people and a lot of different things that can happen. But before giving an answer of what I think we should do, I sat down and just for 20 seconds, I just sat and felt into my heart. Does this scenario feel light or does it feel heavy? And I sat there and I made sure my mind wasn't involved. I just felt, and it felt light. So I said, okay, let's go ahead with this. And it felt good. Ever since then, it's felt great. And I've been really happy since. So it's really coming back to that story of what feels right. And I've been able to get in touch with that on such a deeper level, just through having some mentors, having a bit of a guidance over the last few months, and really taking the time for me. Because if I'm not me at 100%, then I've got nothing else to give to anyone else. So
yeah, I completely agree. And I think that what stood out for me was going to Bali and recognizing that fasting was like, I thought it was going to be more physical. I was like, and you know how you go into a fast sometimes and you think, oh, I'm going to have this physical change and I'm going to, you know, heal this and whatever. And nothing of all that happened. It was more of this connection to self and spiritual, if you like, discovery and journey. And so that's what kind of took us off into different ways and going into these different layers that we're going to speak on today and then realizing the power in, wow, that's actually how you transform. It's not like going back to old ways, like doing a fast and then going back, and then you kind of going this back and forth journey of like, you get somewhere, but then you don't. This is like you get somewhere and then you go somewhere else and you just keep going. And I found that that's something that's kind of stood out to me as well with fasting.
Yeah, amazing. Perfect. All right, guys, we're going to get into these 3 core pillars. Give me a yes if you're ready. Any questions? Let's just check the questions before we move on. I think there was a bit up there talking about chaga mushrooms. We do have chaga mushrooms as well, Helen. I've actually, so one concoction I made had chaga mushrooms, reishi mushrooms, and astragalus root in there with like our normal smoothie stuff like banana and a few other things. And that was pretty full on. Watching from Costa Rica. Amazing. We actually want to get to Costa Rica in the next 12 months.
Okay, Helen, do you guys do mostly short-term fasts for spiritual transformations or more long-term fasting?
In the past, it's been more short-term. However, I do see there's a place for longer term fasting. However, I do believe that you need to be in the right environment. Because I was in Bali and because everything was really accessible for me and it made a lot of sense, that's when I did a longer term one. I don't think I'd do a longer term juice fast while I'm at home working a lot. But yeah, I don't have an answer for that. It really just depends upon how I feel at the time. What about you?
I think it's kind of like the more fasts you do, the more connected and the more parts of yourself you uncover as well. So it doesn't really matter if you're doing like a few short term across the year, or you're doing one long term, or whatever it is. People always ask me like, why are you fasting again? Or like, how can you fast so much? It's like that thing back to, you don't know how good you can feel until you can feel it. And it's not necessarily fasting because you want to stop eating. It's more of exactly what you say, that spiritual transformation that's taking place. So the more that you do it, the more you'll the deeper you'll go.
Yeah.
The deeper you'll go. And
it depends what you're fasting for. Like, I don't know, I'm sure we can share this, but Joe Cross, who Sam's in contact with quite a lot, and we're trying to get him for a few other projects we're doing, but he's doing 4 or 5 day water fast each year, or maybe more, because it's been shown that on the 5th day it starts to reproduce stem cells. So because he's getting a little bit older, he wants to keep all of his bones and muscles and all of those things in as good as he can. So he's reproducing stem cells after a 5-day water fast. So that's why he does shorter ones more often.
Got it, Helen. Thank you. Yeah. So the detox, I'm not sure how many days you're doing, but typically if you're getting past day 3, then your detox should get easier. And so it's probably worth doing a longer one, so 7 to 10 days, just so you can see the difference in what happens after that. But like I said, the more that you do it, the detox will come easier. Hopefully your lifestyle is changing as well along with that, and then you'll notice a difference. But yeah, I always experience detox as well, day 2 and 3. So I usually do mine longer than at least 3 days to go there, and making sure you're meditating and doing all the mindfulness stuff as well. That can help you drop in deeper. So hopefully that helps. Paul, yes, back and forth as opposed to going back and forth instead of going further and further. Yeah, that's exactly what we found. So the more that you do it, the further you're going to go.
Perfect. Let's go. Step number 1. I think I found out how we can share this screen. Oops, wrong one. All right. What happened there?
Whoa. It's like a dream.
All right, try again. Can we see this? Not the Inception dream picture, but number 1, love life. Just gonna double check that everyone can see that. Perfect. I think we're on now. So the first concept in transformation fasting is love life. Now, I said in an email that I actually came across this a couple of years ago, but I didn't know how profound my discovery was. So if any of you guys followed me from the very beginning, you may have seen this before, but love life is the first part. And Shine Like the Whole Universe Is Yours by Rumi, one of my favorite poets. And it's so true. So let's get into love life. We've actually got some acronyms. Ooh. All right. Laughing and smiling. So basically what we did, we sat down and we meditated and we wrote down everything we thought for what it means for us to love life. And then when we were putting it together, we're like, let's make this a little bit more fun. So I think they're called acronyms, right? I left school when I was really young, so I don't know.
I love good old acronym.
But we decided to make it a little fun. And laughing and smiling. And I didn't understand this until just when I meditated just the other day. When we came back from Peru, we'd just been traveling for 30 hours. We weren't really in the mood to do anything. Just wanted to sleep, but we couldn't sleep because of jet lag and the time zone differences. And that point where you feel a little bit frustrated, but you feel really content and you just don't know how to feel, really. Well, we both really agreed straight away that we should put on a stand-up comedy. We had an Airbnb in Sydney. The place had Netflix. It was like perfect. There's tons of comedies. So laughing and smiling came up for me. If we can laugh and smile about the situations that we're in, it makes everything so much easier, so much lighter, and life so much more enjoyable. So that's number 1 to loving life, is laughing and smiling.
Yeah, and something that happened recently is that when we were spending some time in Peru, there was this gorgeous little boy, and he was about 4 years old. And I don't think I ever not saw him smiling. Like, he would greet you all the time with like a massive hug, a massive smile. He had this most contagious laugh that just made you don't even know what you're smiling and laughing at or what you were happy about. You just were in this state of pure bliss and love whenever he was around. And I think that's what we forget as well as we get older. It's like this childlike love. And how do we get back to that? Being more playful, laughing, smiling, and not taking everything so serious. So I think that is like, it's like an ultimate love tip, I think. Just laugh and smile. It's great.
Yeah. And next one, investing heavily in you and your relationships. So that means investing heavily with time, especially. You know, so many of us get caught up in our careers, in our business, in our jobs, with our family, with our chores, and we never take time for ourselves. And you can do that in a number of different ways, whether it's like a date with yourself or you go to the movies or something like that. Something that I did yesterday that was against everything that I should have done yesterday was I had a bath, steaming hot salt bath for about 2.5 hours. And it was the best thing in the world ever. I've been craving a nice hot bath for months, basically. So I did that. And then your relationships as well. And that is in the people who are important to you. So, you know, your family, your family that you haven't seen for a long time, and the ones that feel good to be with, that's for sure. And then loved ones as well. And if you're blocking yourself off from having that loving connection with your current partner or future partners, then potentially opening it up to that as well.
That's a massive one that's come up in the last few months for me as well, is human connection and human contact. And this is like, you know, investing in yourself is a massive one, but by doing that and like we've said, like connecting and being in stillness and allowing you to connect more to your heart, you realize things that are important to you that perhaps haven't been a priority before. And human connections come up for me massively. Being able to, you know, even just human contact, like hug someone and just connect in that way. I didn't realize the importance of what that means to me. So you definitely learn all of the things that really will make a difference to loving life and loving yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And that's been we've had a very common realization.
Yeah,
I couldn't think of the word. Forgiveness and gratitude. What to say about this one? This can be a tough one for many people, and but it can be a place where so many people are unconsciously holding a lot of energy, a lot of negative energy. And why I say this for so many people, I'm really talking about myself here. And I realized that even though, so even for the last 2 to 3 years, I've gone through life, you know, doing my own thing. It hasn't been really heavy on me. I freely move around to different cities. I meditate a lot. I wouldn't really get that angry. I wouldn't have, you know, people that I'd have to communicate with that much in terms of telling them where I was going and when I'll be back. But I still unconsciously held on to a lot of negative energy around past relationships and past experiences, which I didn't understand. I didn't know that I still did. So in the last 2 to 3 months, forgiveness has come up quite a lot. And what you find is that as you forgive the situations or the people or the experiences, you have a huge appreciation for them, because you can look at that with a new light or a new understanding or a new lens to understand it from a different point of view and realize why you went through that. And then you have a ton of gratitude for it.
Yeah. So realizing that some of the, I guess, harder parts of your life, or, you know, weaker parts of you, being able to look at that in a different way. And it's perhaps one of your stronger parts that you don't realize, or it's empowering you to do something, and letting go and forgiving yourself, forgiving others, or just being grateful for the experiences. Like, I've been through loads of, you know, experiences that I thought at the time were life-shattering or, you know, heartbreaking or whatever it is. And I look back and I'm like, I'm most grateful for those experiences because they've shaped me for who I am today. So forgiveness and gratitude is actually the most beautiful practice to just have into your day daily. Like I sit down like before I eat and I talk and I like say things I'm grateful for, or if I'm feeling in a crappy mood, like you can't actually feel shit and feel grateful at the same time. Like that's science, I think. So next time you're not feeling great, feel grateful and like think of me, because you can be grateful for me and I'll change your mood, because honestly you feel amazing.
And then expressing yourself creatively into the world. And that can be through so many different avenues. People get stuck in that I'm not creative because I can't draw something, or I can't, you know, speak, or blah, blah, blah. But it can be so many different ways. Your way of expressing yourself creatively into the world could, there's so many different things. It could be a painting, it could be a drawing, it could be singing, it could be playing an instrument. It could be starting a business. It could be coaching someone. It could be just helping your nieces and nephews or your grandkids and helping them understand their creative side. Remember when we were kids, Sam, we used to make these little cubby houses like every Sunday morning, yes, out of blankets and pillows and chairs and watch Rage music. It can be, you know, just going back to what Sam was saying before, that essence of a child where everything was like there was no limits. Everything was possible back then. I remember back in school, we used to make like clay figures and pottery and all sorts of stuff. There's endless amounts of things to be doing. Express yourself. And when you're in that space of expressing yourself creatively and doing something passionate each and every day, or at least every week, then you have something to look forward to and you're excited about life, and the people around you see that excitement. So they meet you on that level instead of meeting you on a depressed level, and you start to resonate and be at a higher energy, so that you attract people with that same energy as well. Yeah, I absolutely love dancing. And recently I got back into doing that, and I forgot how much it is such a like creative expression, and of, you know, just to be able to let go and dance. And even sometimes actually in Bali we were like doing a lot of emotional work and meditating and fasting, and I got to like day 5 or something like that, and realized that I just wanted to dance. Like I wanted to let loose, and how amazing you feel afterwards. Like, so find that creative expression for yourself. Perfect. All right. So the next pillar is love real food. Yay. Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that quote from Hippocrates, but it's so true. It's so true. And I think we've had so many discussions recently with people, about, you know, not being able to, but can we, like, do we have to give up all food, or like I still like junk food and all of this stuff? And I think it's missing the point, because the key word in that, I think, is real. And we're talking about like actual real food, right? So real plant-based whole foods. And the R stands for us, for rituals, exploring and experimenting, because I really believe that eating is a form of ritual. And as you sit down and you can make it whatever works for you. But I really love the ritual of being in the kitchen, and it's like meditating for me. It's like being in there and exploring and creating things, and it's a form of expression. It's like expressing yourself in the kitchen and creating, and then connecting with people that you love, that you're sharing this food with, and taking time and just appreciating what's provided, and what's being provided by Mother Nature, and what you can create, and what it's doing when you're taking that first bite, and what it's doing to your body when you're putting it in there, and being able to then share that connection with someone. And we spent a lot of time doing this in Bali, and I remember we were out for food, and some friends joined us, and I remember Mitch saying afterwards,
wow, I actually really struggle to make conversation because we're so used to like connecting and like being in our own space when we're like having this food. And it's funny, so it can go like that, or you can use it as a form of creating awesome conversations, like not listening to the TV and having crappy conversations around the table, but using that as a form of how can I connect to this person's heart to heart. And that's what I really love about, creating rituals around real food, because you're putting goodness and amazing stuff in your body and it makes you connect more to your heart, actually.
Yeah,
funny
definitely.
Enough.
And then exploring and experimenting. So we even had this conversation with someone last night about if I was to like go more plant-based, I'd never know what to cook, and I don't know how to like combine recipes and or tastes and flavors and stuff like that. And I was exactly the same. And when I was living in Perth, for a couple of months, I dated this really awesome girl, and she was the best cook in the world. And I asked her, I was like, she could take just some baked veggies, super, super simple, and make it the most extraordinary meal in the world. And I'd try and do the same, and I'd just make a mess of it and it tastes weird. And like I asked her so many times, I was like, well, how can you turn every single meal, no matter what it is, into the most amazing meal in the world? And she's just like, I've just experimented for so many years that I know the flavors and I know what to combine, and I know what to, what needs to be fresh to get the most from it, and what, spices you can use. And so that just comes through exploring and experimenting and being curious about these flavors. And I wish I had the patience to do that many, many years ago, because then the foods that I've been making would be much better than what they are now. However, in saying that, since meeting her, I've started exploring and experimenting. So I've got a few dishes where I can take, sweet potatoes and add in some different sauces, and it can be the most amazing meal in the world. So exploring and experimenting as well.
You do make a mean potato. Eating as close to nature as possible. So yeah, I mean, exactly in what it says. How can you just forget about what you've been brainwashed with for a minute and get back to nature? Get back to what nature provides for us, because it's all there. All the healing modalities, everything that your body needs is there within everything that is grown in the ground or on a tree or, produced in nature. Mother Nature wouldn't have created it otherwise. And so I don't think that it really needs to be so much hype and discussion and negative vibes around this, because it's literally getting back to what we're meant to do.
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to say to that.
No.
I just get mind blown every day with this.
That's what I was about to say. I've really got nothing else to add. It's probably the most simple one that's overlooked by most people, and what people realize when they start going back to nature is probably the most profound.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's leave that one short and sweet. I
touched on this before, so you touch on your take.
Okay. So appreciating sight, smell, touch, and taste. The only thing that comes to mind is what you just brought up before, is that especially after fasting numerous amounts of times, if you really take the time to break that fast in a ritual like we're talking about before, and seeing, so initially you're going out to see what food you're going to buy. So walking around the shop, smelling the fruit, touching it, see what it feels like to make sure it's ripe, and then bringing it home and doing the same thing as you're cutting it up. So like you're smelling it more and more, you're touching it. So ideally you're using your hands and your fingers as much as possible. We go into restaurants these days and we just start eating with our hands. And like, should we be trying to have a bit of courtesy?
But it's kind of like this thing that we've always wanted to do. I remember I was on a date once, and the guy said, it must be like this Newcastle thing, like, because I just wanted to, like, I was like pushing food onto my fork with my hands. But like, yeah, I think, I don't know, it's getting like, watch a child and all the answers are in it.
Don't have to throw a bowl over your head though. That's all right. And then tastes, just really, satiating the body with different tastes and flavors, and understanding those tastes and where they come from. It sounds maybe woo-woo. It sounds a little bit out there, or maybe it sounds right for you, but it just feels right as soon as you do it. Give it a go. And then another one that's pretty self-explanatory, doesn't need to be talked about too much, is locally grown and fresh.
Yeah. Here.
And
then our final pillar is...
He's thinking about it. There we go. Number 3, love yourself.
First, love yourself. Others will come next. Yeah.
I found that on Google the other day and I thought it was really good, so I put it in.
Yeah, and I actually really like it because so often, you know, we think about some of the most loving, caring people in the world, which is our mums, right? And often they're putting everybody else first, and then they get to this, and they're a mum, and then they get to this point in their life where, you know, their children have grown up and they kind of leave the nest, and then they're like lost. And I've spoken to so many mums who go through this. They're lost. They don't know who they are. They don't know what to do with their lives. They don't even know what they can do or what they're passionate about. And I reckon it all comes down to they forgot to love themselves first, and they're loving everyone else first and putting everyone else before themselves. And I don't think it's a selfish thing. I think it's a way of life that we need to change. We need to change our perception around that. And we need to recognize the beauty and the power that comes from loving yourself first and not being hard on yourself about it.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go into this one, Kelpie asks, real food is raw food only or cooked vegan is okay too? We mostly live by raw up until dinner. And then for dinner during the winter and like the colder season, we'll generally have cooked food. Not always, but sometimes, most of the time, I mean. And then in summer, it's sort of like probably 50-50. Where we'll have cooked food half the time and then like something that's not cooked the other half of the time. So definitely, I definitely agree. Raw food is probably the highest form of nutrition in terms of eating food. And then cooked, you know, a lot of people out there say cooked food isn't that great, but you know, things like potatoes and your root vegetables, a lot of them need to be cooked. And then if you think of like places up high in the mountains, like in Cusco in Peru, and they virtually eat nothing but root vegetables. So carrots and potatoes and beetroot and all of those things that generally require cooking. So yeah, I mean, we stick by, let's just say 80% raw food, just as a general guideline, but feel free to go outside of that. All right. And then love yourself. That should be number 3.
Yes.
Yes to the right choices for you and your body.
Yeah. And I think that means, you know, once you do connect to yourself and start to love yourself, then you recognize the choices for you and your body that you're making and not somebody else is making for you. So that's ironic that you asked that question, Kalpi, because you know, I remember for so long in my life, I was living on somebody else's like rules or beliefs or what they thought I should do for my body, and what, you know, what you're kind of surrounded by. You start to take on people's beliefs and you kind of lose track of what is yours and what is the decision that you're making for yourself, because what feels right for you. And it's going back to that whisper of something that's guiding you, our intuition, our gut feel that we push down and suppress and pretend that's not there, because everything else is just so much louder. People telling us what to do, the media, things that we're reading, all sorts of things is so much louder. But once we kind of can connect and start to trust and surrender and get vulnerable and love, then we start to bring out that whisper, and it starts to get louder and it starts to guide us to what we actually really want. So then you'll start to just feel in, like sometimes when we're wanting to eat food now or doing something, we feel into it and we actually go, how does that feel? Oh, I really feel like this. And you then know that you're honoring your body and you're honoring the right choice for you, not somebody else.
Yeah. And it's a self-respect issue, I think. And that's why, you know, that's probably maybe a harsh way to put it, but generally that's what it comes down to is, I think we heard a story from the same person we'll have a conversation with last night about someone that she works with who used to be a nurse, who admits that she's lost all respect for her own body and will eat anything throughout the day. And at least, you know, she's admitting it to herself. There's a lot of people that don't admit it to themselves, but it just comes around to saying yes to the right choices for you and your body each and every day. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be perfect all of the time, but if you consciously catch yourself doing something that you know, doesn't completely agree with you, then that's fine. Going back to the other one of forgiveness, forgive yourself, and then just make better choices in the next day. Like, there'll be times in your life, like I went through it last week, where I wanted to eat a lot of bread, and that's not like me at all. And even though, you know, we had sprouted bread and some healthier breads for most of the time, once I got over that part of realizing that the choices that I was making, then I could start making better ones. Next one is O, openness to give and receive. I think we've really talked about this throughout the whole presentation, is that a lot of us are really happy to give, but we're not so much ready to receive. And if you're not receiving as much as you're giving, then you're eventually going to be tapped out. You're going to lose a lot of what you've got to give because you're not getting that energy back in one way or another. So that means, you know, if you're spending a lot of time with your kids and exerting a lot of energy with them, then you need to be spending, you know, energetically the same time meditating, for example, or having a bath. Or if you're in business for yourself or in a job and you're giving a lot of energy to clients who are not paying you any money, or work colleagues who are draining a lot of energy from you, then you need to be taking time to yourself to recharge and potentially receiving mentorship from those that are higher up in your job, or a coach or whatever. Or do you have any other examples that I can continue with?
And I think it just goes for yourself as well. If you're giving a lot and you're not accepting something in return, then recognizing that in yourself, like where sometimes I always remember it with my mom, actually, my grandma. Like, we'd go out for like a lunch or something, and they'd fight over the bill. Like, they'd fight over who's going to be paying for what. But sometimes, like, just saying thank you is like, it's actually receiving love. And it can be such a hard thing, especially around money. But it can be such a hard thing, but doing it, like, it's a practice, right? So how can you start to say more yes and be more open to things and that people are doing for you in the form of love?
Yeah, perfect. And then you, unconditionally following your intuition and choosing love. And that really just comes back to the story of Oprah. And just to bring everything full circle and really close this presentation that we've been creating here, this energy that we've been creating, is about intuitively knowing what to do and then choosing that love, or choosing the direction of the heart each and every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And unconditional, I think, is a key word in that sense of, so, you know, sometimes we're so hard on ourselves, and sometimes, you know, we are going through challenges and we might want to be hating on ourselves and whatever, but I think it's loving all parts of ourselves as well, and unconditionally, loving the bad things that we consider bad at the time, loving the good, and just remembering that at any moment we can choose to be in fear, or we can just choose love.
Definitely. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. All the love.
All right, guys.
Was this helpful?
Let's bring the energy back up.
Come on, Paul, give us a thumbs up.
We're just going to sit here for 10 seconds. Tell us, was this helpful? Tell us your number one takeaway from tonight.
Come on. We want to hear, what have we got to share? Yes, Paul, we might get a sweet potato recipe out to you. Mitch can get in the kitchen and make some sweet potato recipes. What have we got? People that have stayed with us on this journey, thank you so much. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. What was your biggest takeaway? How are you going to follow your heart more? Such a journey, isn't it? There's a bit of a delay, so we're just going to wait and see what comes through.
How are we going for time as well?
We're over an hour. But we've only got a few more things left to speak about, so we won't be too much longer. We'll wrap it up nice and quickly. Any engagement would be much appreciated.
Yeah. So we may not have time for the video chat where you guys can join in, but next month we will be actually starting the Fasting Academy, where we'll actually do that monthly, where we can do live coaching calls where multiple people can jump in on video. So, you know, we're not selling that or anything tonight, but just a heads up if you did want to join that in future. But right now would be the perfect time to ask any questions that you have and anything that might be coming up.
Thank you, Helen. Thanks for joining us. Paul, I love that you took notes. That's amazing. I can't wait to hear. Calby says the physical benefits are only a small part of fasting. Yep. There is more benefits, emotional and mental. Completely agreed. Yes. And great takeaway. And then we've got Elizabeth. Yes, it was very helpful for the part that I did here. Is it possible to get a recording for this? Yes, we'll have assuming it all went well, we'll have a recording for you. Sorry about that. Does short-term fasting, 3 to 5 days, provide what benefits?
Cumulative
benefits physically, and can one fast 7 to 10 days without medical supervision?
Yeah, I mean, you know, from a professional standpoint, we always say if you're in doubt, get medical supervision. But you know, just from everyone that we've interviewed, all the doctors that we've interviewed on the Fasting Summit over the last 2 years, from Dr. Furman to especially Dr. Goldhammer and Dr. Clapper, you know, they talk about some of their fasting protocols going more than 40 to 50 days. And I think in Fasting Summit #1, Dr. Goldhammer said that the average adult male at about 70 kilograms, or, you know, whatever that is, 150 pounds, can fast for 70 days before you start an unsafe place. So if you put that into perspective of just 7 to 10 days, which is, you know, 1/10 of that, then it seems to be pretty much a bit of a safe ground of just going 7 to 10 days. Not only that, you know, many of the speakers from Joe Cross to Tyler Tolman and Don Tolman and everyone in our group that have done fast, you know, combined, thousands of people have very safely gone through 7 to 10 day fast without medical supervision. But if you feel like you need it, then go for it. And
join our fasting group as well. We have plenty of support on there.
Yeah. We'll come back to those in a second. We're just going to finish this off, and then we'll come back and we'll sit here until 11:30. So another 20 minutes answering as many questions as possible and just giving as much value to you guys. But first, let's recap what we've learned today. So we talked about how to achieve long-lasting, sustainable, positive change by following the 3 core elements of transformation, being loving life, loving real food, and then loving yourself. And also understanding that loving yourself can be the hardest journey you will undertake, but is also the most rewarding. And, you know, some of our experiences have actually been the same. It's been a tough journey, but it's also been the best journey as well. So can you see how transformation fasting can help you with your health success? And do you guys agree that it's been time well spent?
Yeah. Hopefully you've enjoyed this if you're joining us and you've stuck with us.
And then for those of you who would like to learn about more how you can accelerate your results, then let's get into it and really go on that journey to the heart. So we haven't done this together yet, but we're going to open up some time to take on some one-on-one clients. We sat and thought about this for a long time. Wasn't really a direction that we wanted to go, but we've had, you know, a few emails and a few Facebook messages and comments that have come up where people can really benefit quite a lot from it. And especially going on a journey through transformation fasting, it does take some sort of a personalized approach to it in many cases. And we're just talking from our own experiences over the last 2 months with our own mentors, that we've got so much more from our last 2 months with somebody else that it makes sense to actually have a coach when the time is right for you. So if it is right for you guys, then you would just go to FastWayToHealth.com/book And we'll book in a time with Sam or myself, and we'll have a chat about it to make sure that you are the right fit. And then we can talk about what's going to work best for you. So here's what you'll get. We do have a few different coaching packages, and I'll talk about that in a couple of slides' time. But most of them will have this included, which will be a personalized fasting protocol, which will be getting you started on the right fasting protocol for where you are today. So there was a few questions in there about how long should I fast for and all of those different things. And this would be the perfect way to find out exactly what works for you. We'll talk about personal exercises and strategies to help you uncover your blocks and work through them. So that's really going down the transformation road. We'll get you on a mindfulness practice that is suited to your lifestyle and accountability to make sure it works. So the accountability on a mindfulness practice is really what helps you make sure it happens long term. You'll get complete Facebook and Messenger and email support during the period, access to any of our healthy recipes, which we're building up right now. We've got a few, but we're going to continue to build on them. A playlist of our favorite inverted commas hashtag medicine, inverted commas medicine songs to help you connect to your own medicine. So the shamans of the South America believe that any crisis or any tough experiences that you're going through right now, you can get through that with the right song. And one of our favorite songs, which we just played just before we come on to this, was, or we like all their songs, by Narco and Medicine for the People. A lot of you would have heard about that band before. But there's just something about the lyrics and the sound that touches your heart and gets you into the right mood. So we'll share some of those songs that we use and put them into a playlist for you. We'll have coaching calls where you actually do the work on the call with us. So it's not just, us telling you what to do, but actually going through certain meditations and certain mindful journeys and playing songs. We'll actually play songs that will help bring up certain emotions so that you can work through them. And then you got a free SOS call for some of the packages that, in case shit hits the fan during the transformation, you can reach out. And then discounts to any future live retreats. So we've got a Reward of Fast retreat coming up in December, and we'll have many more after that. So it's not for everybody, but it's for you if you're curious, open, and comfortable to push the expectations aside. If you're happy to step into the unknown, if you're ready to let go of control, if you're willing to grow, if you're looking for a community and support of someone who gets you, if you're wanting to genuinely get more energy, reverse the disease, and lose weight, and if you're seeking clarity, and if you're looking for grounding and ready to connect deeply with the heart. Some of the benefits that you can expect can be some of these, all of these, or potentially many others as well, is grieving, past trauma, and grieving in a good way. I mean, I went through some grieving in the last few weeks, and it was so energetically cleansing for me. It was incredible. We'll go through psychosomatic aspects of illness, expand your consciousness, connect to oneself. It will help you lower your blood pressure, elevate your mood, promote better sleep, increase creativity. It will help you heal your mind, body, and soul, increase stamina and energy, boost your immune system, and self-empowerment, especially self-empowerment. So guys, we do have packages that are super affordable. If you look at some of your other mentors and people that we've connected with and many others online, they're charging $1,000 per hour. We want to make sure that because this is something that's really important to us, because this is something that has made such a big difference in our life over the last 2 months, and because of the time that we now have by being together, we want to make this as accessible as possible to those who are wanting to take it. So we have personalized fasting protocols from starting at $250 US, and then up to a 6-month plan for $1,900 US. So we can definitely talk about those in depth more of what's included in each of those. We also have a 3-month plan for something in between as well. So best thing to do is just book in the call. There's a few testimonials there as well. So this is just from when I was doing more of the NLP coaching. So it's not even combining the latest stuff that we've learned, which is much more powerful. And it made some pretty big impacts on a lot of people back when I was doing that a couple of years ago. So myself personally and Sam, we've both done NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, and all of those modalities that some people like to see, which has definitely helped us on our journey. But now there's a much deeper level. There's a new paradigm called transformation fasting, we've named it. There's this new paradigm, this new energy out there that can be used during coaching to make sure that you're getting results much faster. And while these modalities have served us in the past and created amazing results, which you can see from those testimonials, what we've got right now is so much more powerful. So jump on to FastWayToHealth.com/book. Book in a time with Sam or myself. Make sure you tell us when you book in that it's for coaching, and we'll go over and we'll chat and we'll find out what package works best for you. And, I just want to say we would love to chat with each and every one of you, and we'd really love to have you on board as our coaching clients, and we'll definitely make sure we give everything that we've got. Secondly to that, if you are sort of not really committed to doing some coaching, then please don't book in a time, just because we want to make sure that everyone who's really committed and today's message has really resonated with, we want to make sure that they've got some time to actually book in and chat with us. So if it's something you're really serious about, then jump on, book a call. Now, in saying that, if we chat for 30 minutes and it doesn't feel right at that time, then there's no obligations whatsoever. It's just a time thing to make sure that people who really want to get involved will actually be able to have the chance to. Sound good, Sam?
Sounds great. Say yes to that. That feels right. We had a few more questions come in as well. Let me just go back up. Fasting 1 week is definitely beneficial, Kelpie. Yeah, absolutely. And again, what Mitch just touched on, if you're wanting some more specifics, protocols and stuff that will suit you, then perhaps have a think about what we've just mentioned. But yeah, absolutely, it would be helpful. Thanks, guys, for all your comments about loving the presentation, your humbleness and authenticity. Oh, thank you so much. And we've got Paul. Yes, Paul, your favorite. After fasting, being more mindful to the food and yourself. Touch, look, and see. Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that whenever you're eating as well, even not just when you're fasting. How can I listen to the fasting summit?
None of them are up currently. So we've got fasting summit number 1 and fasting summit number 2. You can check out the preview videos on YouTube. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there. Now we've had, oh man, so many requests. So many people want the fasting summit to come back. Now, I've been thinking about it a lot. I think we're going to bonus it next month for the Fasting Academy. So if you guys are interested, next month we'll have the Fasting Academy as well. I'm not going to talk about it here, but just stay in touch for 3 more weeks and you'll hear a lot more about it.
Yes. Paul, I have an issue with my wife because I've gone on this self-discovery. Yeah, yep. Really get that. Like, that happens a lot, right? Whenever we kind of make a change or do something different, the ones closest to us are generally the ones that start to freak out. The best advice and the best thing that you could do is just to do you. So just be you, because you're going to be the biggest, it's kind of like loving yourself first, right? If you can love yourself first and continue on your own journey and be the best version of you, you don't even have to say anything. You're going to inspire the people around you, but they'll come around in their own time too, because they're on their own timeline, right? And just be mindful and sensitive to yourself and what's going on, because sometimes people do go, they disconnect, and that's okay because they're on different paths. But you'll probably inspire, if it's your wife, you're probably going to inspire her, just not right now. Just keep going and keep doing it, and without telling her that she needs to do it, let her do her own thing and do your own thing. Our dad is a prime example of this. He, growing up, like, I'd never imagine him to be even slightly interested in anything that we're doing. He's had trouble with his weight and different illnesses and stuff and going on. But I remember one day, without even kind of saying anything, we sat down and we watched a documentary together. And I think it was like the next day he messaged us saying, where can we get a juicer from? And then you know, all the time now, what juice can I have for this? What juice can I have for this? And he's just starting to come around and be more open to the idea. And we didn't push that on him. We didn't tell him he needed to do something. He just, in his own time, was ready to be inspired. So yeah, just keep doing you and it'll come around.
And just on that as well, guys, a really personal story that I wish to share with you is just on our dad. So a lot of my issues around relationships and loving myself has been because of the relationship of my dad growing up, where without getting into too much detail, he was a typical Australian father, right? Saying, you know, you don't be a girl and cry and all of those different things. Unconsciously, I held on to a lot of that stuff. And it was really impacted my life in terms of my intimate relationships later in life with girls and all of that type of stuff. Now, I cleared a lot of that stuff up over the last 2 months and, you know, going through the different layers. And I called my dad just the other day and we had a normal conversation. And right at the end of it, when he said bye, he said, I love you. I was like, what just happened? Not once has my dad ever showed that type of emotion to me. I don't even think he really did it to his daughters, to you, does he? Not as much.
Not until now, until they went through this change, right?
Yeah. And I was like, you know, wow, it's amazing. We've not really spoken to him about this type of stuff. We just live our life. But what happens is the more we transform, the more people around us start doing weird stuff like telling us they love us. And it's the weirdest thing. So Paul, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about those other people in your life. But do what's right for you. And eventually they come full circle and they meet you to where you are. Yeah, now, in saying that, fun. To give you more of a practical answer, can we just show that last bit?
Which last bit?
Of Paul's. Then Paul, you wrote, then this results in an unconscious poor eating in myself to reconnect with her, to your wife. Why not find a shop that sells the most amazing raw treats ever? So raw treats, you know, for the most part, they're pretty healthy and they taste incredible. Don't even tell her what's in it, and then bring that to her, and that can be your thing that you connect with. And, you know, sure, they cost $5 per little slice, but, you know, what's the value of that connection with your wife? You know, getting 2 of those each weekend, spending $20, you get to connect over food like you used to, but it's healthy food, but it also tastes incredible. I don't know. It's just a thought I had.
I might even join you. I mean, Bris, sounds yum. What else we got? How do you reconnect first thing in the morning when feeling sluggish? Great question. Morning routines are perfect for that. We love, which we have been so thrown off with all these time zones, that today was like the first day I started doing breathing again, but finding something that makes you come alive. So we love going for a walk, doing some breathing exercises, doing some meditation. And quite often, especially in Bali, we were doing that before, like that was the first thing we did. We woke up at sunrise and we did this morning routine, which set us up for the day. It actually gives you so much energy and so much centered like clarity and focus for you to then to get on with the most important things. So if I'm feeling sluggish, I'll dance, or I'll do my morning routine and breathing and stuff, and it will make you feel 10 times better.
Yeah.
I'm interested in boosting energy levels and metabolism. I do intermittent fasting. Perfect. Has that worked? Hopefully intermittent fasting's work. If you're just starting intermittent fasting, keep going, because the results will come later, probably when you least expect. But that should definitely help with both of those things that you're looking to boost.
Yeah, definitely.
And I thought you were talking about only water fasting, or was this more about juice fasting?
I think when I was giving some examples, I was talking more about juice fasting. Water fasting. Oh, sorry. So I remember now, Helen. Sorry. So the 70 days thing that I was talking about, that bit, that was actually around water fasting. So Dr. Alan Goldhammer showed us that 70 days as a male, about my size, and that's when it starts to become a bit of an issue after 70 on water only. So So yeah, doing a 7 to 10 day juice fast, pretty simple, right?
If you haven't done a water fast before, perhaps start at a juice fast and then if you're doing it on your own, and then see how you feel from there, and then you can progress to water. But join our group and we can chat if you need some help. And Margaret, yeah, you should be able to watch this from the beginning. Thanks for joining us late, but we will post this somewhere.
Yeah,
and you'll be able to get it. So
good to have you here, Margaret, as well. I think today will be today's session will be perfect for you, just based on our conversations that we've had before. So basically, we're going to finish this up literally in 30 seconds, and then give it probably 5 to 10 minutes, and YouTube will do their thing where they make the video available, and then just hit refresh on the page and you'll be able to see it. So I think that's it, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for joining us.
We did it inside 90 minutes.
We love connecting with you guys. We hope you got something out of it. Thank you so much for your love and what you've mentioned for so far. And for anyone that's going to be tuning in, not live, we'd love to hear from you as well. We'd love to hear your biggest takeaway, where you're at, and something else. I don't know, fun fact.
Amazing, guys. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend. For those of you tuning in live, for those of you watching the replay, this is going to be up on the website and in the coaching section. So make sure you reach out to us, FastWayToHealth.com/book. Book in a time and we'll chat with you there. So much love to each and every one of you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll speak again next time.
Lots of love. Have a beautiful day.